Greetings and a hearty ni hao to you, Crocoduck Army. I just got back from my over 1 month long work trip to China last Wednesday, so I'm still a bit jet lagged, but I'm getting used to my own time zone just in time for me to head to Amsterdam on vacation with Mrs. Zaunstar and a couple other friends later this week. As I mentioned in the last video, this trip will also include Brussels and Luxembourg, and will bring my lifetime countries visited list up to 28. I've already found a couple Crocoduck Army members in the Netherlands, so if you want to get together, let me know in a comment or private message. The trip is an organized tour, so meetup options are not unlimited, but I'm pretty sure we can make it happen if you're flexible. Oh, and for those of you who will tell me to go get stoned at a hash bar, shame on you. You're totally forgetting the red light district. Anyway, let's get back to China, a country a lot less frequently visited by Westerners, and viewed with a lot more mystery or even suspicion. I read up on Chinese culture before I left, thinking I could get a good idea of what people are like there. There were definitely some pieces of advice on those websites that were just flat out wrong. Some people recommended to never mention anything about Japan to a Chinese person, because they supposedly hate Japan. While of course I'm aware that some Chinese people do still have hard feelings toward Japan, because they never formally apologized for what they did to Chinese people in World War II, this feeling is generally directed at the government and not the Chinese people. After all, nearly anyone guilty of any atrocities to Chinese people is either dead or in a nursing home these days. While I'm sure you can find Chinese people who hate anything Japanese, maybe the Chinese equivalent of Tea Partiers, I never encountered any disgust at having enjoyed Tokyo on my 2 visits last year. Japanese movies and other entertainment is consumed by Chinese people just like American movies too. Japan is always in the top 10 travel destination countries for Chinese people. China is not a place that's easy to visit for a novice traveler. Even for an experienced international traveler like me, I got into plenty of situations where it was very difficult to communicate what I wanted because of the language barrier. Most Chinese students take English at some point in school, but most speak it very poorly, if at all, though they seem to understand written English slightly better. Don't expect it to be like Europe, where in most countries there will be at least a few people working in any business that will know enough English to communicate with you. Also, there are not a lot of non-Asian people in China in general. Even at the most popular tourist attractions, a large majority of the people there were Chinese. Partly because of this, you will get people staring at you pretty often. It's not that they're being unfriendly. If you greet them, they'll likely greet you back. Much like in Japan, staring can mean a lot of things, and is not considered rude in most contexts. I was the only foreigner on a nearly full 737 in China. Now that was an experience. China is a country that's changing rapidly. It bears little resemblance to the country that I learned about in school in the 80s, with the people in drab clothing making subsistence wages. The Chinese middle class is surging, and economic output is increasing rapidly, though there is fear of an economic bubble that could pop at any time. Fashion is interesting in China. Skirts are actually shorter than in the US, and you know those jokes you see on Facebook about if Chinese people were like Americans, they would tattoo the word water on their arms in English? Well, they kind of do that. Chinese people love shirts with random words in English that often make no sense together. I saw no fewer than 3 people in China wearing shirts that had the word pervert on them, and one of them was actually a 4-year-old boy. One of the Chinese women I worked with was wearing a Guns N' Roses t-shirt one day, and she had no idea who they were. Karaoke, or KTV as they call it, is becoming big in China as well, and I did that a couple times. Someday maybe you will hear me sing Nirvana, but probably not. There's a lot made of China being polluted or dirty. To that I say yes and no. In terms of general litter on the ground, I would say that the 3 cities I spent time in, mostly Beijing but a weekend each in Shanghai and Xian, were all less polluted than the average US city. I saw many workers whose main task seemed to be simply to clean up litter. There's definitely a smog problem in many cities, Beijing among the worst of them, but the air isn't always bad. There will be weeks where it's really bad, and then weeks where the air is mostly very clear. It just depends on the weather and the prevailing winds. Bathrooms are another matter. A lot of them don't smell much better than camp latrines. Fortunately, the quality of the food tends to be better than the quality of the bathrooms, but more on that in a future video. Meanwhile, how many fortune cookies do you think I found in China?